Hello quarantine printmaking friends. Today I'm going to show you how to print that plate that you were working on. So you're going to need a couple things. Obviously you're going to need that Drypoint plate that you've been working on. You're going to need a towel. You're going to need a spoon. If you have a brayer, that's fantastic, but if you don't worry about it. You're going to need an ink knife. You're going to need some of that ink you made the other day. If you have oil paint, go ahead and see if you can use that because that's a nice thing to play around with. You're going to need some vegetable oil to clean up with, paper towel, a work surface. I've got a piece of plexiglass down on top of my press bed, and you're going to need some paper. If you have printmaking paper, the best kind I like for this process is Reeves BFK. I've got some over in a shallow tray here filled with about a ½ inch to an inch of cold water. It's been soaking for half an hour. If you're going to be using something else like Stonehenge, I would soak it longer for about an hour. If you don't have printmaking paper, you can use sketchbook paper. Depending on how thick it is, I've got some sketchbook paper here, and you want to give it a little dip test. If you dip it in the water and it immediately starts becoming translucent, like I'm looking at the edge of this paper and it's already kind of getting a little pulpy, then basically you've got what's called a dip and blot. You're just going to dip it quickly in the water and then you're going to blot it and use it for printing. The thicker the paper is, the longer it's going to need to soak for it to take the ink out of the lines. So just kind of play around and experiment and see what you've got. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is, if you've still got ink in the lines from when you were carving and you're going to switch to another color, you might want to clean out your plate. So I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that vegetable oil, and I'm going to clean my plate out because it's still got a lot of that black ink in it. So I'm just going to rub my plate down. Now it still might be stained, and that's okay, but I just want to get a lot of that excess ink out of my plate. You guys can see there's still a lot in there. Now after I get the ink out, just kind of want to wipe all the extra oil off the plate. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, the next thing you want to do is, I've got these, forgot to mention these little cardboard chips. So you just want to get some stiff cardboard and cut it into little chips. I'm going to take some of the ink I've made, and I'm going to be using some of that eyeshadow ink because it's the one I had the best results with. And I'm just going to get some on the edge of my chip, and I'm going to hold the chip up at about a 90-degree angle, and I'm just kind of push the ink into the lines. And I've got my plate on top of a white piece of paper, so it's a little easier to see what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm laying the chip flat just to get the ink on the surface and then kind of pushing it down into those lines. Now what I'm going to do with this one is take an area of this plate and show you all how to ink it if you're using oil paint, because it's a little bit different. With this looser ink that we're using, we're not going to wipe the surface with a paper towel because we would take too much of the ink off. So what I'm going to do is take a clean side of the cardboard chip and just kind of scrape the surface, and that'll be good enough to clean it off. However, with the oil paint, it's going to leave kind of a residue, and I'll show you. I'm going to grab some of my oil paint here, and I'm going to go ahead and put some in these bottles here on the side. So same procedure, and as you guys can see, there's a whole bunch of that paint that's left on the surface. So the way that you're going to get that out is you're going to take a paper towel, and I'm just going to kind of fold it into a little square, and I'm going to very gently buff the surface of just the ones I wiped in the oil paint. And that way it'll stay down in the lines, but it won't be on the surface of the plate. Maybe we'll have a two-tone print here. Looks pretty good. You don't want to over wipe or you'll take it out of the lines. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. Now it's time to get our paper. You're going to drain off the excess water, open up your towel, put it inside, and then if you don't have a brayer, just blot with your hands. If you do, this will help you get some of the extra water out. And you're going to take your paper and you're just going to, what I'm going to do is flip this paper over because I don't want this to transfer. I'll lay my paper on top of my plate. And then you need a secondary piece of paper because if you rub your wet paper with a spoon, the paper will pill and tear and kind of start to come apart. So we need a buffer piece of paper to go on top. And you want to hold this all together as you're moving the spoon around so that nothing shifts. So I'm going to take my spoon and I'm going to put a couple of fingers, 2 or 3, inside the spoon, and I'm going to start pushing down either in a circular motion or back and forth or side to side motion, and I'm going to push down, and you're going to be putting down a fair amount of pressure. And what we're doing is pulling the ink out of the lines and transferring it to the paper. Now take your time with this and be patient. Let's see if I can get 2 colors for you guys down here from the bottom. Now if you're not sure if this is working, you can peek, but the more you peek, you risk shifting things. Let me see if I can get a quick transfer. A wooden spoon works better than a metal one, but I don't have one, so use what you have. You can play around with using more than one ink on your plate. Play around with different kinds of papers. And you guys get the idea here. I'm just going to do this quick one for you all. And there we have it. Could have cleaned up a little bit better right here, but we've got 2 different colors. You can read the text. We've got a lot of those fine lines coming out really nice. I did 3 prints beforehand. So there's that print using the eyeshadow ink that I made. It's really my favorite so far. This is the one I did with just the oil paint. It's really good at getting all those fine lines, but it's a little bit too light for my tastes. I might try a different color and see if I have any better luck. And this is the one I did with the crushed charcoal. This one came out losing a lot of detail, and I think it's because the particles are still a little bit too rough. So go ahead and play around with this, have fun with it, see what you guys can make, and I'll see you guys next time.